Okay. Hi guys, how are we doing today? Good. I hope most of you are having a productive week so far. Before we start tonight, I want to just go have a brief discussion about the midterm, just some feedback on what your thoughts were. Did you think it was fair? Do you have any questions or concerns regarding the midterm, or based on the grades, for the most part, persons passed, but borderline. The grades were average. They ran from 45% to about 80%, and so that should gauge you as to where each of you are in the class. So, anybody with feedback or concerns, any questions? No? Okay. Okay, so everybody was comfortable with
good night.
Good night. Everybody is comfortable with where they're at in class, and nobody feels that they need extra assistance. Or I know earlier in the lecture a few weeks ago, we said we could probably scale down the information so you're not overwhelmed with so much information. Nothing else? Everybody is fine? Fabian?
Miss Bullet, I feel like, let me see how to put this. I feel like, I don't know, the test was okay, but like, I don't know if I had too much information. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I overthought the exam or I had too much information. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right. So you want to think about it some more and then let me know, because I don't think there were any surprises. Was there any surprises or anything that we did not cover? Were you disappointed with your grade, or you felt that?
No, I felt, I passed the exam. I felt I did okay. But yeah, I don't know if it was just too much information. I'm not sure.
Okay, but did you expect to get a higher grade, or you got?
No, not really, because I really was studying, trying to make sure I understood everything, doing definitions and all that. So I think the exam was different from what I was expecting, if I'm honest. So like I said, I'm not sure if I overthought the exam. I don't know.
Okay, so different in which way then? Because I gave a format of, there would be one essay, there would be 25 multiple choice or what have you, and the 10 short answer. Would you need more information? And then every topic that we covered in the review was the topics that were actually there. Yeah. I think one or two persons would have gotten confused, because I saw some confusion in the answers, whereas a lot of persons in terms of the goal setting question, that was the question that was poorly answered by almost 90% of the class, did not get full points for that question. However, when persons wrote the essay, we had two persons that talked about goal setting and wrote the exact answer for goal setting in their essay, but did not write it. I think it was question 21. So I don't know if the questions were not clear, but for the most part, the goal setting question and the absenteeism and the presenteeism question were the most poorly answered. No other concerns? No? Okay, so, well.
Wait, why did you just reach?
Hi, Yuri.
Hi.
Okay, you have some comments. I was just asking if there was any feedback on the midterm. Did you think it was fair to,
You just grade hard, that's all.
Sorry?
You just grade hard.
I grade hard?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to not grade as hard.
No. Well, I see your expectations, so I'm cool with it. I at least I know what to expect moving forward. And like for future projects.
Okay. But it was fair and it was what we covered. Or you didn't think definitely. It was fair?
No. Everything, what caught me by surprise was that the vision statement question and the question from the speech.
Right. So I gave you the opportunity to go out and respond to us, right? Because the cross marker actually went, and actually there are 3 persons from your institution in this class. And so she said she confirmed, you know, one person, and the other one, you could see that it was a mission statement within the department. So she got points for that, but yours we weren't able to confirm at all. But if there are 3 persons in the class of the same institution, there should not be 3 different answers, correct?
I mean, there shouldn't be, but it can happen.
Okay, so did you go, can you prove where your answer came from? Because like I said, the other person, mission statement was, this is I work in, let's say, data processing, and this is a mission statement for data processing, not the overall bank.
Okay.
And so that person got points.
Okay.
So that's why we sent the email to give you the opportunity to respond. But you let it be, or you're still going to respond?
I'll look into it and I'll get back to you same time tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, because like I said, this is very achievable, and my hopes is that everybody, you know, feels that they're tested fairly, and you know, they have the opportunity, like there are no opportunities to pass a class. But what I want to say, and you know, most of these recordings are like the speeches, the cross marker listen to the speeches, and for the most part, I guess we need to find a way for, you know, this class to be more engaged, because again, it is a higher level. It's a 200 level. So normally there's a prerequisite to get into the class, which is like banking operations. I think it should be English 119, but they don't have that documented as yet. And so the expectation is that you are the supervisor, or you're preparing to become the supervisor. So there's a higher expectation of each person in the class. This class is supposed to be where we practice to be the supervisor. So if reading is required each week it's more of Miss Bullet speaking and giving more than an overview of the book, rather than person saying, well, I would have read and this is my contribution to the discussion. And so I was, you know, had to think of ways on how to get persons more engaged. And so far, well, this is a good topic. Chapter 10, I would hope that most of you, you know, had the opportunity to read it, because it does talk about communicating effectively, right? And so if the whole purpose of the class is to get you to practice to act like the supervisor, so when there's reading, you do your reading, you do the contribution. Sometimes your supervisor or your manager comes up to you and says, handle the huddle, you know, for tomorrow. Or one time I had a group exercise to do and nobody else in the group showed up, but the entire organization was waiting for a presentation from our department. So what should I have done? Should I have stood up there and said, well, the other 7 people are not here? Or do I carry on with what I have? So it's good to be organized, prepared. Okay, and we had that instance in here the other day where I think somebody was reading, and you know, they had an issue where they had to be excused, and Yuri, you stepped right up and you took over. And I think you had already read, you know, it wasn't the case where, oh, I read already, Miss Bullet, or whatever, but that's the type of initiative that, you know, supervisors are expected to have. So for the most part, you know, I want all of us to try to be more engaged. Normally in groups. Sorry, you're saying something, Yuri?
I was talking to somebody else. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Yeah, normally in groups, you know, you normally have 3% of the class um, that normally speak up, and then everybody else spectates, right? But all of us wants to be supervisors, so all of us have to practice speaking up and practice being called on and practice making a contribution. So that's really what this class is all about. Okay, and so what I came up with is for this, after we would have um I guess gone through communication, hopefully some of you would have read, but if you haven't, I'll go through it. But our next chapter is chapter 5, and I perhaps will go to chapter 5 at the end of this class and assign portions of um that chapter to each person, and each person that way perhaps will, you know, help you to be able to make a contribution rather than just waiting for somebody to give you the information. Okay, because I saw a lot of that in the midterm. It was like, we're not going to study, we want the information from the person right down to the page, right? And so we want to ensure that, you know, we do work together and we help each other, but nobody is dependent on anybody else in the group, because again, we aspire to be the supervisor. Another common problem that I'm facing throughout all of my classes, you know, I say normally when you are home and it's online, you know, this is the new way of the world. This is like a new norm, online classes. And, you know, it's going to take a while for everybody to adapt to the online situation, both the individual and their family, and even, you know, their peers or their colleagues at work. And what I notice is we don't always have that uninterrupted time, because once we're home, either our husbands or wives, our spouses feel like they can call on us, whether we're in class or not. We feel that if the telephone rings, we should answer the phone, or if the doorbell rings, we should answer the door. And then again, if we are in class, would this really be happening? So person suggested that, you know, we come in face to face. And I said, no, we need to, you know, discuss the barriers and see how we can overcome some of them. And so, you know, I always tell everybody that all of us would have paid for this class. Nobody is here for free, right? And so we would have made an investment where we could have bought a ticket to Miami, bought a new purse, you know, bought a DVD or a TV or whatever, but we took this money and we made an investment. And so we want to get 100% of our investment. And so a lot of people come to class and they text or they're on the phone or what have you, but you know, I want you to get 100%. And so in order for you to get that 100% of the value of the money that you paid, you know, you need some uninterrupted time where the texting and the WhatsApp and the Facebook is just on hold, because at the end of the class, all those messages are still going to be there. So you won't miss anything. And I promise you, right after the class, you can go and answer all of them. So some undivided, you know, some attention away from social media. And I guess perhaps engage your family to say, you know, if I was at school, this would not be the time for me to help with homework or answer a phone call or do this. So please, you know, I don't know how your homes are set up, but it may help if you find a spot inside your homes where you could have some, you know, time away from the children or time away from the spouse, and in uninterrupted time that you can really focus and be more engaged. Again, it's just a tip. I know it's difficult, it's new for everybody, but we want to try to get used to, you know, online being the norm. And so if online is going to be the norm, it has to work, right? And again, all the benefits, you know, you made an investment, I want you to benefit as much as possible. Okay? And or perhaps on the day that you have school, perhaps take your lunch hour at, you know, 4 o'clock if you're able to. If you have the 2 15-minute breaks throughout the day, take your lunch hour at 4 o'clock, so you don't have to fight the 5 o'clock traffic and try and make it here for 6 I know a lot of times the person say, well, I'm driving, or, you know, I'm going to be late. But really, as supervisors, we have let's say we have 10 persons reporting to us. Can we really show up to work late? Can we, you know, or we have to prepare sufficient time to ensure that we are there on time? Because a part of our, you know, job is to ensure that persons get to work on time. And how do we ensure if persons get to work on time if we're not there on time? Okay, and then there's also a 30-minute break within the class. And so within the class, if you want to take the 30-minute break, say at 7:30, and then you know, and that would give you some time to check your social media, or you know, attend to your family, or you know, whatever else you need to take a break to do. Probably get a light snack, because you might have rushed directly from class, and by 7:30 you may be hungry, and so you can't listen to Miss Bullet anymore. I don't know. So, you know, just let me know. I know most persons prefer to take it at 8:30 so the class could just end. But if we need to take that break at 7:30, please let me know. Okay, but this chapter talks about communication and feedback, and so I need everybody to be engaged. I need everybody to communicate. I need everybody to give feedback. Okay, and so let me somebody always replies, Denise, what is, give me some feedback based on what I said, please.
I mean, I completely agree. Me personally, I mean, I don't have any young kids, so whereas other people may, to me, like I feel like we could keep going till 8:30. And I agree with you. It is a two-way communication street. We all paid to be here, and we should all want to get the most out of it. Not just by showing up, but also by being engaged. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
Okay, great. Thank you for your response. Kendra?
Yes, ma'am.
Feedback?
Feedback. I think it's about the individuals and what we want from the class. I think that's what ultimately it boils down to. Everybody is dealing with something. I think these are just unusual times in which we live. There are challenges that most people don't see, but guess what? The challenges that every one of us got going on, the persons don't see. I think we just have to do the best with what we have and be able to adapt and move on from that particular point. 8:30 is fine with me. I don't think that this particular chapter is going to be boring at all. So, you know, you're not going to enjoy every chapter because everybody got their cup of tea. But I think we just need to come in with a made up mind in the direction that each one of us want to
go. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else wants to give any comments or feedback?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I like the idea that you said breaking at 7:30, because some of us, I can speak for myself, I get off at 5, and you know, I gotta come home from work, and then you know, you might want to eat. Not you might want to, you have to eat. So I think the idea of having a break at 7:30, I think that's a good idea. And then you said something about this, the new norm. It is, and it has its challenges because like for example, my sister, she told me when I told her I had to go in and take my midterm, she's like, to her it was like, oh wow, and you taking this class remotely. So you know, it's like, yeah, like you getting the information via the internet, like, you know, our classes, but then you have to go in. So it's like a transition for everybody. And like you say, you're going to make it more engaging where you give certain people different parts to discuss. And I think that's a good idea, you know, and get more people who normally doesn't talk to really be interactive too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And so what I had planned for tonight is we, of course, I'll go through chapter 10, and then I have some questions on chapter 10 just after the midterm. I wanted to give some practice questions to see, if that would help. Some persons need to catch up and they, need a little bit more help. So we can start tonight at 7:30. You can get something to eat, and then when you have some time again, you can get to answering, the questions for chapter 10 just for practice. Because again, if we look at the agenda, we have a quiz on March the 16th. That's 2 weeks away. And so I know the first quiz I sent home for homework, and then that was returned. But this second quiz, it's going to be timed. So I'm going to send it out to you, and you have 20 minutes to complete it and send it back, and it's going to be 25 questions. So you're going to have to study. It's going to be on chapter 10, I think 10, 5, and 6. And so you're going to have to study because you have a limited amount of time, to send it back. If you don't send it back within the 20-minute time frame, then you don't get a grade. Okay?
Then
Yes, go ahead.
Will this be fillable? Because some of us, like for example me, I don't have a printer at home in case I have to, like what I did with the last homework. I had to print it and then scan it to myself and send it to you. That's why I'm asking if it will be fillable,
But, okay, so all you have to do is write, it's a Word document. So when you open it up, you could write A, B, C, or D next, next to it, and you should be able to. Or another way is that you can have a separate piece of paper where you just write the answers.
Okay.
And email that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So prepare, start to figure out the way, so because we don't want anybody to be held up, with this test. And in terms of, like you said, it's online, but you came in to do the test. Now, our testing, we do have online testing, but since we've started it during the pandemic, we've had millions of complaints because it's very sensitive, and persons, it's been all sorts of issues surrounding it. So I administered a test. The person didn't turn on their light, and I guess the facilitator did not want to accept that their room was too dark. So it's a lot of problems, or issues that can occur. Another person moved from, I guess, their front room to their living room, and it shut them out the exam. And it took almost 15 minutes of giving an explanation as to what happened with the person. You had to call them on the cell phone. It was just a horrendous process, and they did not want to let them back in the exam. So, we're trying to iron out the kinks. Somebody had a TV on in the background. It's so many, different.
Yeah. Like, sorry to cut you off, but it's a flaw with this, because you have to consider certain people living conditions. Like some people might be living with family, so it's like, this is difficult. I hope that we can move forward from this. So.
Right. So, it's just like if you came into the classroom, there are certain rules governing an exam, right? And it's the same thing if you're at home and you're going to take an exam and you are being watched, you have to follow the rules.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's simple as that. And so we just have to, I guess, train our students to, these are what the rules are. You have to follow up them, and then a lot of persons are on an iPhone or a cell phone, and they said absolutely no cell phones. And we told students that, and on the day of the exam, what did they do? Show up with and it says iPhone, or, and they were blocked out. So until we could train persons up to what the, minimum requirements are, and luckily the numbers for Corona are down, that's why you would have gone in. Otherwise, we could have it, but when persons get hit out, or somebody kept reaching down, and we had they got hit out because the facilitator felt like they were had a book underneath the desk, and the person said they were scratching So they kept doing it. So it was legitimate, you know, and whereas, you know, I'm familiar with the class. You know, I could call a person on their cell phone and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you continuously reaching? They say, oh, I'm scratching. Yeah, but you get hit on the exam for scratching. So yeah, so we working on getting everybody trained and up to par on what is required, and then hopefully we can you know, get back online with the exams. Okay? Okay, great. All right, so good little discussion. Thank you. So again, use us to practice to speak up, because again, sometimes you're called on and you don't have the chance to prepare. You have to give a presentation or a speech or even a comment. So this is where we practice and we help each other, train each other to communicate properly, okay, and remain engaged. And again, I know most of us are overworked and overwhelmed and life happening and we just want to pass. But again, you made a contribution. And so if you want to be a supervisor, you know, you can't carry that. I just need to pass this class and full it. And that's it. Get out of this program. No, you want to be engaged, get, you know, fully trained and trained properly. And so you don't pass, you know, that attitude onto your staff. Okay. And again, this book talks about it. Preach what you teach. Something to that effect. Did anybody get to the point where they read that? Where, you know, actions speak louder than words?
But that, I read that.
Okay, good. Yeah, so actions speak louder than words. So please, you know, you may think that nobody noticed, but you're always on display, you know, and people normally think negatively of you before they think positively of you. Okay, so we want the right perception out there, that we are engaged, we made an investment, we want the full amount of our investment, and you know, it is tough, but we are going to participate and get through it. Okay, and then again, you'll see that reflect in your grades. So again, the grades were average. Remember, overall, the pass class is 65%. Merely passing, and most of us just scrape past 65%. That you know, is not sufficient. We are very intelligent from the conversations. This is a very intellectual group, and I expect much more than just we scrape past and we made it. Okay, so Ms. Bullitt will try her best to scale it down, and so we can meet this 1 hour left now, and you know, because it's no use overwhelming everybody, because we want to be able to retain this information and then apply it in our organization. So let me go to communication, and then I'll send the questions. And there are 2 discussions that I want you to prepare for, where again, I would need feedback. And if you would have read already, hopefully, I want to talk about communication. It's in the, let me see, the something to think about, the little yellow check where it says, do women and men communicate differently? And so again, I want feedback from the women, and then I want feedback from the men on that topic. And the next one is the work grapevine, the corporate grapevine. We want some feedback, everybody to comment on that. Okay, so I'll go through it and then we'll have those discussions after. Okay, and hopefully anybody who would have read one. Tanisha, you said that you read?
Yeah, I read most of it. I was able to read most of it.
Okay, and we'll give us an overview of what you got from chapter 10.
From this chapter?
Yes.
I got that communication is important, especially as a supervisor. And in order for you to effectively communicate, you must be a good listener. You must have good written and oral communication, depending on the communication style you're using. I also learned that non-verbal communication is powerful, because you may not say anything, but your actions and your body language says a lot. I also learned that when you communicate, your actions must speak. So like if you're in the email saying that, make sure you're to work early and stay off your phone, but if you're doing that which is contrary to that, then we'll go, us as the employees will go off of your actions, and you will lose, I wouldn't say respect, but trust, you know?
Right, and credibility, because again, you'll be saying, but Miss Bullet always texts in. How Miss Bullet can say make the best of your investment when she's sitting in the class texting the whole class, correct?
Exactly. So you'll be like, they ain't doing it, child, I don't have to do it. So you have to like make sure your action match your words.
Right, because again, you're on display and you're always being watched. And back to what you said about non-verbal communication, that's very important as well, because I read a few surveys and they said your words are 7%.
Yeah.
93% is your non-verbal communication. So when you speak, persons are looking at your facial expression, they're looking at your hand. Some people speak with their hand gestures. They listening to the tone. Because if I came in this class and say, y'all could do better in the exam, right? Everybody would have been like, wait, Miss Bullet, you need to calm down, right? So tone is very, very important. Okay, and so 7% words, 93% persons are watching your body gestures and your movements. So be very careful about that. Okay, okay, very good, Tanisha. Thank you for that. Okay, so what does the book say? And again, the book is very good on explaining these. So I'll just go through the parts that I have highlighted. Communication involves the transfer of meaning. If no information or ideas have been conveyed, communication has not taken place. The speaker who is not heard, or the writer who is not read does not communicate. However, for communication to be successful, the meaning must not only be imparted, but also understood. And I don't know if you all remember, and I always say this because in these classes, you know, we take the research type of approach where students go out, they are responsible, you know, to read the chapter and come back and just discuss. And many lecturers just give questions or, you know, a brief overview and questions. So everybody is responsible, you know, for their own learning, or you know, to go out and read and digest, but not only to read. I don't know if you all remember, and I don't know why this is only taught in primary school, but comprehension is very important. And this is why after you would have done research, then we say let's have a discussion based on what the chapter says, because we want to test your knowledge. Once we want to test your understanding. And so comprehension is normally only taught in primary school, but you know, if I could make a recommendation, it needs to be taught all the way to grade 12, because a lot of times people read, or they are in a conversation or in a communication, but they do not understand it, okay? Or they misinterpret what was said and they don't walk away with the true meaning, okay? So that's a big barrier in communication. So the speaker who is not heard, or the writer who is not read does not communicate. However, for communication to be successful, the meaning must not only be imparted, but also understood. A memo addressed in Japanese or any other writing, if you don't speak Japanese or Mandarin or what have you, then it's not understood. It's not properly communicated because you don't speak that language. And so in order for it to be a full communication, you have to speak it in a language in which the person understands, okay? So it's the transference and understanding of meaning. That is what the definition of communication is, okay? So a lot of times in banks, this has been a problem. On the anti-money laundering side, we have lots of, we work in the offshore world, so we have lots of persons from all around the world who they speak Spanish, they speak Mandarin, they speak French, and we would receive documents from them and we place them on the file. They're never translated into English, and so it's been an industry-wide problem. Or when persons get their ID certified true and correct, again, that person would have like be a JP in their country, like say Rodney Munker, he would have written it in that language. And so we place that right on file. And so when auditors and the central bank or the regulators come in, they pull that out and it's in another language. And so industry-wide, that's been a problem. And so they have asked that all information be translated to English, because of course you're not going to have an auditor or regulator that speaks all these languages. You may just have one person in your institution. So it's not just the words that we speak or words that are read, but in order for it to be a proper communication, it has to be understood as well. Okay? If someone disagrees with us, many of us assume that the person didn't fully understand. In other words, many of us define good communication as having somebody accept our views. The problem is one equating effective communication with agreement. So again, that's another problem that, you know, we face, or when you communicate. Persons feel that if Ms. Bullitt disagrees, or if what Tanisha said, I said, no, Tanisha, you were wrong, then a lot of people feel that, you know, it's not proper communication. No, we can agree to disagree, you know, and a lot of people, you know, define communication as Ms. Bullitt agreed with me, or Tanisha said something, Ms. Bullitt agreed, so it must be right. No, that does not mean that we understand. We live in a world today where most persons in the book will talk about this. Most persons are afraid to speak up. Like we said it before, silence is pervasive. You know, people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of victimization. So a lot of times things, you know, don't make sense, or they are not understood. And sometimes we just don't have time for that, can't be bothered, or she is the boss, so whatever she say, it'll just go whether it makes sense or not. So we have a lot of people just accepting, you know, wrong information. We have a lot of supervisors training persons with incorrect information. And because the person is afraid to speak up, or sometimes, you know, I worked with somebody who, you know, always volunteered to do the presentations. You know, she would stand before the staff and present. And we normally had, you know, PowerPoints and, you know, a script for her to follow. However, she always went off on a whim of incorrect information. And we had to stop her and we said, listen, you know, there's a group of persons here who are entry-level staff. They are just going to take your word on what you said. You are basically standing up in almost every training. You're giving them the wrong information. And many of them are not going to check. They are just going to do what you say. Just imagine you being new to an organization, you jotting down notes, and the information is incorrect. Have any of us had any experience like that? Where we have had, you know, attended a seminar or been a part of a presentation and the information was incorrect?
I've experienced that. Not incorrect. It just wasn't thorough. So it almost like it incorrect. So I've experienced that.
Okay.
You going through the motion. You don't really know the motion because it is new to you, but you go in based on what the person is saying. But come to find out after having a conversation with somebody else, there is more to be done that wasn't explained to you. So it's not that the information wasn't correct. It's just
you
that
got half of the story.
Everything, it got half of the story.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yuri, you turn on your mic. You want to say something? You want to add something?
Well, the information wasn't like correct per se, but it was more like outdated. Let's just say we started a process and then the process had to be like amended, like a form had to be amended. And so there was so some persons perceive or interpreted and put in the information this way on their own, but when in actuality you have to do it a different way. And so what we usually do is we come together. We come together as a collective. Well, we discuss the form, and then we discuss the manuals, and we compare, contrast, and discuss. And by that, we move forward by what's in the manual, and we make sure that everybody understands it and move on.
Okay, yes, very good. A lot of policies and procedures in our organizations are outdated, and laws have already been changed. And in the past, it was okay because laws used to change like every 20 years. However, with the FATF and all these AML rules and regulations, a lot of things have changed and laws have had to be updated. And so it's very important that before you sit down and read a 50-page policy, that you look for a version date or some type of date or an expiry date. There should be some type of date. And if you look in the corner of the document somewhere, it should say 2003 or 4, then you know that that's more than 13, 14 years ago. You don't need to sit down and write that policy. And I started that in my other class as well, because I've had persons where we deal with like the 40 recommendations from the FATF. And with those recommendations, they've been updated like 4 times. And if you go on to Google and you're doing research, the first one that was updated in 2000 will come up, and all the recommendations and all the numbers would have changed. So I always tell them, go and look for a version date. If you can't find a version date, then do not read that document, because more than likely it was put together before or written before version dates even existed. That's how old it is. And, some persons listen, and then I have persons who wrote 3,500 word essays on the wrong information just because they did not check that date. Okay, so that's very, very important in your organization when you deal with policy and procedure. Ensure that you're reading the most current version. And if it's not updated, then your regulator normally has something on their website in their policy and procedure that you could read to get the updated version. Okay, or the person in your manager should have an updated version that they're working on, or at least know that, some of the rules have changed or it no longer applies. Okay, so good communication is normally defined as agreement instead of clarity of understanding. In order for you to say that you communicated, right, the person must leave understanding the full story or most of it. And comprehension, like I said, we take it lightly, but it's a big problem in many institutions today, and it causes a lot of barriers. So ensure that the person understands, or you transfer your understanding, or you transfer your meaning to that person, and then you can consider it good communication. Okay, so in the communication process, there are 7 parts: the sender, encoding, the message, the channel, the coding, the receiver, and then feedback. So of course, those are going to be those topics you would need to know, those definitions, and you would see them when I send out the multiple choice questions. More than likely, those 7 processes, you would need to know the definitions for them. Okay, so the book says, before communication can take place, a purpose expressed as a message to be conveyed is needed. It passes between the source, which is the sender, and a receiver. The message is encoded, converted to symbolic form, and is passed by way of some medium, which is referred to as the channel, to the receiver, who retranslates, decodes the message initiated by the sender. The result is a transference of meaning from one person to another. Okay, so again, that's the communication process. We are restricted in our communicative activity by the extent of our knowledge of the particular topic. We cannot communicate what we don't know. And should our knowledge be too extensive, it's possible that our receiver will not understand our message. Okay, so that's what could be happening. Either Ms. Bullitt communicating what she don't know, or her message is too extensive and it's hard to digest all this definitions and possibilities that Miss Bullet trying to share with you all. And so Miss Bullet has to find a way to scale it down so everybody, you know, understands. Okay? So the amount of knowledge the sender holds about his or her subject will affect the message he or she seeks to transfer. And finally, just as knowledge influences our behavior, so does our position in the social cultural system in which we exist. Your beliefs and values, all part of your culture, act to influence you as a communicative source. Okay, so a lot of times too, when you read books, it's good to find out who the author is. You will learn a lot from, you know, how they grew up, what their beliefs are, and, you know, what their sexual preferences. So when I read a book, I normally Google all of that. Who is this author? How old are they? You know, and so as I go through the book, you know, a lot of times you're confused about some of the points that the author would have written. But if you have that background information, you will see that, hey, this person is a part of the LGBT community. And so therefore, when they talk about, you know, LGBT issues, they, you know, tend to be more sensitive. Or this person is, you know, a part of the Black Lives Matters movement. And so you will see that as you know, read various point of views. Okay, so you want to get that research in and find out exactly who wrote these books and who, you know, who the author is. So you can, you know, a lot of people read books or watch movies and, you know, they make life decisions based on what they see on TV or what they read in a book. So you want to ensure that you know what is influencing what the person wrote or what they say. Okay, so the message is actual physical product from the sender's encoding. When we speak, the speech is the message. When we write, the writing is the message. When we paint, the picture is the message. When we gesture, the movement of our arms, the expressions on our face is the message. Our message is affected by the code, a group of symbols we use for transferring meaning. The content of the message itself and the decisions that we make in selecting and arranging both codes and content. Okay, and so again, the channel, the medium by which the message travels, decoding a receiver's translation of a sender's message, and feedback loop with Ms. Bullet always asking for. The final link in the communication process is the feedback loop. Feedback is the check on how successful we have been in transferring our message as originally intended. It determines whether understanding has been achieved. Okay, so how many processes make up this communication channel?
7.
7, okay. And what would you say is one of the barriers in the communication process?
To go there?
Yeah, we need to know what you're talking about, right? Because I you know, Miss Bullet is speak and she speak very long and she say a lot of things, but we could never understand her. Okay, so you want to ensure that you understand. Okay, when we talk about the coding, the book says the receiver is the object to whom the message is directed. But before the message can be received, the symbol in it must be translated into a form that can be understood by the receiver. This is the decoding of the message. Just as the encoder was limited by his or her skills, attitudes, knowledge, and social cultural system, the receiver is equally restricted. Accordingly, the sender must be skillful in writing or speaking. The receiver must also be skillful in writing or listening, and both must be able to reason. One's knowledge, attitudes, and cultural background influence one's ability to receive, just as the ability to send. Okay, so we see that there can be a lot of issues. Either the speaker or the sender of the message may not have sufficient information or may have too much, and then also their beliefs. You know, I don't believe what Miss Bullet say because, you know, if it has to do with Christianity, she's gonna be biased. Or a lot of times, you know, we in the political season now. You can't believe what them F&M say, or you can't believe what those PLB say, right? That's a common one that comes up in communication. Correct? Do we face that? Do we know some PLPs that no matter what the PLP says or does, they still right? Do we have that experience?
Yeah, that's pretty much true. That's true.
Right. So do we write that person off completely and say, man, you're an old PLP, I can't listen to you? Or what do we do? How do we bypass their social beliefs and receive their message?
I think, go ahead, Yuri, go ahead.
What if we include a party on the opposing side and they have a vote up to say?
Okay. But the opposers always oppose, right?
But I guess if you get more than one perspective, you can make a final decision, I guess.
Okay, so right, so get all of the, when you want to make a decision, especially like I say, most people base their life on these decisions, or again, they're gonna base their life on or decide who they're gonna vote for based on what is said.
Mm-hmm. So I guess do your research on the opposing side.
Please do, because let me tell you this. 1 year, I support all governments, and I was listening to Ryan Pinder, and Ryan Pinder was speaking, of course, on behalf of the PLP, and I had followed him because he was the Minister of Investments, and normally when there were industry updates and stuff like that, I always thought he was very smart and very intellectual, so I followed him. And he came on TV and he said, he was a PLP candidate, and they have a plan and they have a manifesto and whatever. And I said, okay, Ryan is a pretty good guy, and I follow him for my career. So let me go and read this manifesto. Now, suppose I had just said, because of me already knowing him and being familiar with him because he's in the industry, let me just vote for the PLP. A lot of us make those type of decisions, right?
A lot of them.
A lot of them, right?
No.
Yeah, and then again, a lot of people just speak very eloquently. They tell you all the words you want to hear, correct? And they sound so good. I said, of course, if Ryan is going to have anything to do with this, this is going to be good. And let me tell you, I don't know, I must have had extra time. And I said, let me go and read this manifesto of the PLP. And listen to me. It was garbage.
I know, it was disappointing.
I talk about garbage. It was complete garbage. Even the grassroots people who are uneducated or have never been, if somebody dropped out of primary school and they had read that, and they would have thought it was garbage. That's how bad it was. And I was very, very disappointed, and I was shocked. And so from that experience, I don't listen to they sound very good, and they write they could write a good piece in the Guardian, or they could talk very good they speak eloquently, And so just do your research. You'll be very surprised, very surprised. So I'm glad that I had that experience and I didn't just go and make my decision based on that message I had received. Okay, so being familiar. Okay, so there are two types of communication. One is formal communication. It addresses task-related issues and tends to follow the organization's authority chain. And then there is informal communication, communication that moves in directions, skips authority levels, and is likely to satisfy social needs as to facilitate task accomplishments. Okay, this type of communication moves in any direction. Again, we are going to talk about the grapevine, and when we get to the grapevine, we're going to see that, while many grapevines are very toxic and management believes that it has no place in the institution, there's actually no way to get rid of it. Okay, so when we get to the grapevine, we'll talk about that. So know that there are two types: formal, that address task-related issues, and then the informal that satisfies more of the social needs in most organizations. Okay, so how do you communicate orally? Today, supervisors are becoming increasingly aware that oral communication not only is an effective means for quickly conveying information, but has positive symbolic value as well. In contrast, a memo or electronic message, the spoken word, is more personal. It conveys more intimacy and caring. Okay, so Again, we have some people, you have to be sensitive. Remember, I don't know if I spoke to this class about colleague care, but I know I speak about it in customer service. So again, the same white glove service, lower the client, earning the right to be the customer's first choice, these mission statements that, you know, they embed in us to just give good service to our clients. The customer is always right. The customer is king. We want to give that same service to our colleagues. Okay. And so a lot of times something happens, and especially if it's something wrong, rather than go right up to Miss Bullet and say, no, Miss Bullet, that, you know, explain to me what happened. We become accusatory right away, or we have those supervisors who will see something happening and will not say, if you will not interject. They'll go to their computer and they'll send you a message. Dear Miss Bullet, I realized that you gave that customer the wrong information. Why didn't you stop me and help me? And you know, why you take the time to go back? You know, so most of the time that offense persons, right? Y'all ever got those emails where the person could have, or the supervisor or some manager could have given you additional information, but they let you throw yourself under the bus. And then when you get back to your desk, you get an email. And anybody ever had that experience? No?
I mean, you just get this, you get this right there.
My thing is, I'm not even going to put myself in that position, because if there was something that's unclear, it should be my responsibility to go back and ask questions.
Right. So you mightn't have been clear. You might have thought you just like you. Okay, Yuri, you've been to the training. You got that outdated policy, right? That customer come in and ask Yuri, what's the process for credit cards? And Yuri say, from his outdated training, A, B, and C. Incorrect. The supervisor, hey, you giving out the wrong information. But instead of interjecting and saying, excuse me, Yuri, perhaps you don't have the most current information. They let you give the customer the wrong information. And when you get back to your desk, you see an email saying, dear Yuri, today you gave the customer the incorrect information. I suggest you attend that training.
They're going to plead my case because I made it a training and this is what I got.
Okay, but the whole point of this is to communicate orally, okay?
Yeah.
Especially if something is wrong, exercise empathy, go right to that person, explain to them, perhaps don't be accusatory, don't say, don't scream, be mindful of your gestures, and then just, make it more personal and act as if you care. I want to help you through this. I see that you may have given the wrong information. And this is another story that I always use with, oral communication. I went to Lowe's today, and I normally buy vitamins from there, and they had an expiry date of 2/19 on the box. And so I took the pills back. I just happened to pass. I said, wait, 2/19? This has to be wrong. So I go back into Lowe's with my receipt, and I look at all the boxes, and all of them have 2/19. So the lady said, oh, that's outside of my pay grade, miss. Let me call the manager. And do you know, the manager never came out of that office, and never, and she was like, well, we have to ask the woman if she want her money back. Never came out, never addressed me, never apologized, whatever. I guess it didn't matter. But it was at least 30 or 40 more boxes of the same medicine on shelf that they had to take off. And it was like, miss, you want your money back? Because we don't have no more. I said, well, no, I'd actually like the vitamins. When do you think you would have, a new stock in? Yes, I know what to say. But again, the manager never came out. And it just goes back to, again, my experience at Royal Bank. I used to work at the branch. I used to be the teller supervisor at Finkel Robinson Road and Key West Street. And so, of course, we were termed the ghetto branch. And so we had persons from all walks of life. And, I always said a lot, we had a fire almost every day that, I had to extinguish. But from extinguishing all those fires, I learned that, when a customer is upset, I always took the responsibility for that, no matter who was wrong. The customer came into the branch, they had a bad experience. And so therefore, even though sometimes we had some people who were high or drunk, or, we knew the people who always cause trouble. We had, like I said, all walks of life. Even though the teller mightn't have been wrong, I always apologize on behalf of the branch. I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. When you came in here today, can I offer you tea or coffee? And then I went to say, okay, would you like to explain what happened, or how may I, make you feel better about this experience, or how can I make you leave as a satisfied customer? Okay, and I think we have moved away from that, whereas, customers have complaints, managers don't even come out their office. Or, I've seen managers, for those who have the glass door, when they go and say, well, that customer there for you, they roll in their eyes, or they make you wait like half an hour. Now, granted, this is everybody has work to do, and this is an unscheduled request. But I think it's very poor when managers don't at least come out to the customer and try and make sure that the client leaves satisfied. Okay, and in this atmosphere where it's pandemic, a lot of people losing their jobs, I think we need to beef up, our oral communication and ensure that our clients leave satisfied. Okay, and like I said, it ain't about who wrong or right. Because a lot of times after I will calm the customer down, then I had to calm the teller down. And I always said, listen, what can, we can't really control the clients, we can control our response to them. Okay, what can we do differently? Was the line long? Did they have a right? Was the person on their lunch hour? And this was back in the day. Right now, Royal Bank is the fix, but this was back in the day when service mattered, and before Trinidad took us over. After Trinidad took them over, I should say, because I'm no longer there, then the service level just went down the drain. Okay, but don't ever feel that you're the manager, or you can't leave your office, or you're too busy for your clients, because if there are no clients, then there's no need for no managers. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so Ms. Bullet just talked too much. Something to think about. Okay, do women and men communicate differently? Who's the first person there? Blakely, did you have an opportunity to read this on 246? No, Blakely?
Hi. Oh, no, okay. I didn't read the chapters yet.
Okay, so from what you know, do women and men communicate differently?
I think they do.
Okay, in which way? Give us an example.
In the workplace?
Yeah, in the workplace, at home, wherever. In relationships, wherever.
I think men leave things alone more. They don't address things as much as women.
Okay. In the workplace or in relationships?
Outside of the workplace.
Outside of the workplace. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the workplace, they're probably more direct.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Kendrick, do you agree? Kendrick, you're getting in no trouble for not using this class. Get over it.
Is it men are from Mars and women are from Venus? That's as best as I can say at this particular point. I agree with Blakely in the workplace, because, like it says here in this part of the book, men tend to want to show off more. I in charge. And from in the earlier chapter, it says that women are they're more into the interpersonal relationship. They want to communicate exactly what's transpiring. It's like, for instance, and this is political answer, Blakely, so I'm agreeing with you. A wife asks a husband, the young lady had a baby. Yeah, he say boy, or she says she had a boy. As far as he can say, he's finished with that. But the wife still wants to know what's the color of his eyes, how much pounds he weighs, what's the color of his hair, who does he look like, and all of that. We're just completely different. But I think that women do a better job of communicating effectively. And I say that as a man. But I think women are the better communicators rather than men.
Okay.
Politically driven statement and peaceably.
Okay, so I'm reading a survey now that actually says men talk as much as women and men communicate just as much as women. It's just perceived that women talk as much. I mean, talk more, or they express themselves wrong, but they said men talk just as much as women. Okay, and I tried to find out who wrote this survey, but I was not able to find out, you know, and what they said is
Was it a woman? Was it a
Sorry?
woman? Was it a woman?
No, it was they based it on like the university surveys, about 3 or 4 universities, and let me see, they say one when they, you know, tallied up all of the, you know, they interviewed 100, each of one of these surveys interviewed 100 men, or they watched 100 men for 30 days, and what they found out is there are a lot of stereotypes, but men do talk more than women. And they said, despite the stereotype, whether in the classroom, office, group discussion, or in a two-person conversation, men talk more than their fair share of the time. For example, in one experiment, male and female subjects were asked to verbally describe pictures and engravings. The women average description was approximately 3 minutes. For a man, the average time was 13 minutes. So out there, the perception is that women talk longer. But from these surveys, they determined that, you know, men talk longer. And then it says men are more likely to interrupt women than to interrupt other men. Yuri, do you agree with that? Yuri still there?
I still there. So you read that last sentence again about the interruption?
Okay.
Because I was ready to jump in, but I was ready to finish.
When women talk with other women, interruptions are evenly distributed. When men talk with other men, interruptions are evenly distributed. However, when men and women talk with one another, almost all of the interruptions are by the men.
Take it, Yuri. Take it. Take it.
BS. No.
Take it, Yuri. Take it.
Man, that's BS. No. What?
So they say they did 5 surveys, and that's what the results prove.
They need to bind them.
Yeah, I'll count it again because they lie.
They need to bind them.
Okay, let me tell you some more stuff what it says about men and women, because again, there's a lot of, I guess, stereotypes, you know, out there, or what people automatically think. So they say the main differences are men are more masculine, so they avoid personal stories. They attempt to dominate the conversation, and they are less likely to listen. They are more aggressive and more prone to interrupt. Women are feminine. They share personal stories. They offer personal stories. They are concerned. They're genuine and they're concerned. They listen carefully and attentively, and they allow themselves to be interrupted more. Okay? Facial expressions are less by men, more by women. Eye contact, completely avoided by all men, and women prefer eye contact because they determine or women feel that if you look them directly in the eye, that you're being honest. And they also feel that if your eye wanders during the conversation, that you're not being honest.
Ms. Fuller, question.
Yes.
You think, just in the survey, would you think that cameras being on in this class, me and Yuri would object, or the females would object?
I think you and Yuri would object, but I didn't go out and find out.
You think that we would object?
Oh. Wow. Okay.
Oh, you saying if the cameras are on? You mean? That's the question. Or I thought you meant during this. Oh no, the females would object more to the cameras being on.
Okay, so staring in the eyes thing, I kind of destroyed that.
No. In person now. Come on. think about it. Men don't normally give eye contact unless they be in personal. When a man starts to stare you in his eyes, normally he won't tell you like you're beautiful or something. It no longer becomes professional, right? And so some men avoid eye contact just to ensure that you understand that this is business and he ain't getting out of line with you. No?
This is true. This is true.
I mean, I believe it, at least when from a child that was trained, you look at a person in their face when you're speaking to them, so they are clear, and then you repeat what you think you heard to them to ensure that that's what they're saying. So facial contact, look at them, look here. This is what an A, B, and C is, and go from there. So the straying of the eye and all of that stuff, just from growing up, if you stray while you're talking, either one or two things. You're intimidated or you're lying.
Yeah, lying.
Either two things. Either you are intimidated by the person that you are speaking to, or you're lying. Okay?
Okay.
That's what I got from that. And when you look at a person straight in the face, and you go from there.
Okay. Well, this book says men frequently complain that women talk on and on about their problems. And then women, however, criticize men for not listening. So, of course, I know not only men do this, both men and female do this. When this bullet just going on and on and on, and you get a point 5 topics ago, then you just block Miss Bullet out, right? You can't even hear it anymore. And I had that experience at church. Like, I had gone to the same church for 25 years. And I just honestly could not hear my priest's voice any longer. I just could not hear it. So I found myself just showing up to church, sitting in the pew, and not getting the word at all. And it was so bad that I left and I found another church that I've been a part of now for almost 20 years. And I pray that, my ear stays open. But my church was like Anglican, borderline Catholic, very solemn, so I don't know if any of you attend those types of church, so you all know how very solemn and quiet it is. And so I guess I needed a bit more upbeat to keep up with it. Okay? So women, and we do go on and on and on about our problems, and it's almost like we want, the men to feel the pain that we feel. So men don't feel that pain. Find a girlfriend to vent, and then when you reach home, have 90% of the story already told and be tired of talking about it, and give your husband 10% because he's only going to listen to that 10%. Right, Yuri? That's all he can digest, and he really don't know how to help you with all these women issues that we have.
Miss Buller, that is not factual. I have to object to that.
You have to object? Okay, great. Go ahead.
Mind you, some of the stories just be interesting,
Very
I guess it's
so.
the delivery. I guess it's just the delivery of the female. Because naturally females like hilarious, and so that's like a good trait for me, or like a turn on for me. So if a female could tell me about her day and make it funny, then we could vibe like that, and I could feed off that. But if she just talking
and drama.
Right.
Ain't no direction.
Right.
Ain't no direction.
Like you ain't leading up to no climax, or you ain't leading up to nothing, then you wasting my time.
Okay, but for the most part, you want to have a happy part of the day.
No, I just want to hear the client, whether it be humorous and some kind of a little bit of drama in it or some kind of conflict. And I can get down with something like that. But if it's just drawn out and boring, then next.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Kendrick. Tell us, women. This is, we want to know how the men feel.
Yuri, question. Traditionally, a woman's day is never boring. For me, at least for me, it isn't. It's never boring. Now, Miss Bullock, I think as men, and I think it goes back to how we were raised, if we have been conditioned to listen, not hear, because I know that's what a lot of women say, you hear me? No. My wife has asked me that You heard what I said. Just this morning, she asked me that. She was saying something to me in the car on my way to work, and she's like, what did I just say? Did you hear anything I just said? And guess what? I repeated everything that she said because I was listening. It's not about hearing, it's about listening. And I think there's a stereotype out there about us men that we don't listen. And I think it is that we do listen. The thing is that you want, most females would require physical, you want me to physically turn towards you, give you my eyes, everything. But I can't do it in a
Undivided
drive.
attention, is it not called? Yeah.
Undivided attention. And guess what? We could be sitting at the table and having a meal, and I'm listening, but I'm eating, I'm doing something else. So I can't give you my undivided attention if your cooking is good. Your food is good, so I can pay attention to the food.
No.
I have to agree. I have to agree.
No.
I think
No. Remember now, and this is, you know, an issue that I have. You know, this relationship is twofold, right? 50% of what you want and 50% of what I want. Okay, something should be my way. Correct?
I messed up.
Let's get at least the 80.
Okay, whatever. The 70, 30, 60,
no,
40,
no.
whatever you want.
It's 90-10. It's 90-10.
Okay, so 90-10.
All right.
And
We
so
only get the tides.
If 90% of what I want, then if I want your undivided attention, don't try and convince me that I don't want that. That's what I want.
But also, okay, let's analyze the relationship. Okay, let's analyze the relationship. If it's Yuri dating somebody, and I think Yuri got to figure out who she is. And Yuri, I throw you under the bus here, right? I just used you as an example. You got to know her for who she, you got to feel her out. If she's somebody that talks, then you got to understand that you got to be the ear to listen. If it's somebody that just acts a particular way, you have to feel out who you are conversing with. Yeah, so I think this bullet is all about who you were speaking to. I don't think you generalize everybody the same way. I just think it goes by an individual basis.
Yeah, correct. But majority, when we talk about the majority, you know, of men, like you say, take the time to get to know what the person's expectation is. And then you say you have to learn. But then be honest about it. Because a lot of times people know when you're not telling the truth, or people know when, you know, your wife probably asked for the undivided attention, because I have somebody who just responds the correct answer and does not mean anything what they say. They know that it's unacceptable to say no, or I can't do, or whatever. So they just say, oh yes, okay, fine, I'll do that tomorrow. Never done. Okay, so there are the people out there who just give you the correct answer and then they don't follow through. And that's where you get to the actions speak louder than words. Okay, so be genuine. Half of what they want, half of what you want. Okay?
Yeah,
okay, good.
Ms. Bullet, you've only asked Blakely, none of the other females.
Yeah, because you and Yuri give me a lot of feedback. Okay, sorry. Other females. Anybody wants a contribution, they still there. Margaret, you wanna respond to the guys? What do men? How do men and women communicate differently? Do you agree with what they said, Margaret? Is Margaret there?
I'm here. I do agree that men and women respond differently and communicate differently. And I agree with, I think that was Yuri, I'm not sure. The part where he was saying women want, when you respond to women want us, they want you to look at them. Yes, we do. I agree with that 100%.
Wow.
Sorry. I agree with that 100%. Because we want your undivided attention. Whereas, like, yes, on the other side, if a woman is talking to a man, if a man talking to a woman, y'all don't care if we looking, but the women, we want your full attention.
That's not so.
I think so.
Yes, we women, we do. We want you. Yes, we do. I can't speak what men want, but when a woman talking to a man, yes, he wants you to look at us and respond. We don't want you to be somewhere in the room. No, we don't want that.
Yeah,
No,
and
because
so
the reality is
Kendrick
we
and
don't want
Yuri.
we feel we don't we I think too is because we don't want to say, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. We don't want that.
Right, and so don't tell Margaret how she feels. That's how Margaret feels,
Yes,
Kendrick.
I'm
That's
telling
how
you
she
That's how she
feels.
feels.
Yes.
I get that, but I can't agree with that last part.
But
But you don't have to. No, but you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree.
I want to challenge that
How she
theory,
feels.
man. I
oh
need
my
to challenge
God,
that
challenge
theory.
how I feel, Ken.
I have to challenge that theory, man.
Wow.
Okay, which part you want to challenge? Which part?
We do care when you are listening to us. We do
Oh,
care.
you mean that part? I don't feel so, but you're the man, so okay.
We do care because listen, whenever I don't care what type of relationship we're dealing with, everybody wants to be valued. Okay, everybody wants to be valued. And if I'm giving you not one ears, both ears, two eyes, everything, I need that when I communicating to you, I'm telling you how my day is going or how it went. I don't need you to be fooling up with your nails and doing this and doing that.
Really, that matters to you?
I want full attention.
But Kendrick, but then again, if that's her, if she in love with her nails, then why are you trying to change her? Let her be her. You said,
listen,
I want to know how your day was.
Hold on, see?
Not how I want
see?
your day to be.
Yuri,
Right?
you see?
Do you want to know how her day is, or you want to know how you want it to be?
So you saying if me and you having a conversation, I can't be in the mirror like brushing my waves. I can't be doing that.
No,
but
Every
no.
personality,
See?
it just depends. It just depends. Sometimes you could, and then sometimes the person would say, Yuri, I'd like you undivided. I don't think
it depends.
I can brush my waves and I can listen to you, or I can eat my meal and I can listen to you. You telling me what I want. No, I ask for your undivided attention. I'd like to have it. Don't try and change my mind.
But what they getting from you is like you ain't asking. As soon as you start talking, I have to drop everything
No.
and look up in
How
your face.
it is? I'm not asking. How am I not asking? I would like your undivided. My tone. Let me go all the way down. There. I would like your undivided attention.
All right, since you asked nicely, okay.
Okay, but Yuri, what I find is, let me just tell you with my boys. My boys don't understand when I say, hon, please do A, B, or C. They don't understand that. Unless I get, do this now. That's the only language that they understand. They don't understand the very caring, just listen to mommy the first time or whatever. I have to scream for you to hear me.
Miss Bullet, do you take in consideration that your mommy, you gotta understand that those dynamics are totally different.
No, okay, so you're talking about in relationship it's the same thing.
It's the same thing because
there you promised to do this yesterday. Yeah.
Right, because if the child is like you saying initially, Kendrick, that's how you were trained. You see? So if you go back to the kids, if they will continue to act out in that way where their attention is displaced, then as they grow on in life and become adults, they're going to be that same way or similar to when they start like personal relationships.
Right, but however you program yourself, if you program yourself to drive a car, you will become a driver. Right? And if you program yourself for somebody else to call you 3 or 4 times before you respond, eventually that'll become your norm. Okay, so be very, very careful with how you program yourself, and that's why you go back to the Bible. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and then he will not depart. Okay, so like I say, as I have to constantly explain to them. I mean, for the most part, I would be with that's my good boy. I have some good boys, but I feel that yes, when it comes to things, if they watching TV or don't let the basketball game be on, my God.
Lost cause.
I said y'all picked the wrong times.
Wrong timing.
I know. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I have to speak more than once. Okay. So very, very, very good discussion. We do understand that men and women feel differently, and we want to stop trying to convince each other that we don't feel that way. And so the book goes on to say, if you want to effectively communicate between the sexes, it's important that supervisors for meeting departmental goals have to manage the different communication styles. So yes, I did have, 10 tellers. And I would find that, the guys, when we start to run on, they say, can we be excused? Even in these classes, normally I have 10 ladies to 2 guys, or sometimes 1 guy. And I always have to apologize. I'm sorry, we need a little bit more information. You need less. So, get to the details. And if the male is, that's sufficient information, he could go with that information, then let him go. Don't be offended. Sometimes we see that as rude. Kendrick always has to walk out of my meetings. No, Kendrick just do not want to be there for all that extra that he does not need. Okay, so just be mindful of that at work. To keep gender differences from becoming persistent barriers to effective communication requires acceptance, understanding, knowledge that there are differences in communication styles, that one style isn't better than the other, and that it takes real effort to talk with each other successfully. Okay, so what I used to do is say, okay, Kendrick, before I let you leave this meeting, explain to me what needs to be done. Okay, you got it, good. Anybody else wants to leave? All the ladies want to stay because they want to talk. Sometimes men want to talk and sometimes men don't, like Kendrick said, everybody is different. So just know and just understand. And very good if you men now out there listen and can actually, listen to what the person is saying, not try and tell them how they should feel and act, or could give a response. Because I see my boys, I have a 21-year-old and a 20-year-old, and they just afraid to even give any advice. And the Bible talks about good counsel. I used to say, before I make a decision, I don't like, I'm a very private person. I don't tell people my business, but I do go and ask, I give a scenario, asking for a friend, what would you do in this type of situation? But I see that a lot of adults and children just like it ain't none of my business, especially if it's a marriage and it's 2 friends. Oh, I don't want to give a comment. So where do you get this good counsel from? I don't think the Catholic churches have that little thing where you go and do confession any longer. So where do you get good counsel from? Blakely, where do you get good counsel from when you need information? Do you find that you are able to communicate and you get a good response? Or do you find that a lot of people just don't want to get in your business or don't want to give you advice? It's fear of being, you don't listen to me anyway, or you will feel criticized if I tell you the truth.
No, I think I'm able to get good counsel.
Okay, so you're not having that issue. Anybody having that issue? Only Miss Bullet. And Miss Bullet, we don't want to offend you. So how else will I be made better? How else will I learn if everybody is afraid to offend me? And I can take criticism once it's not malicious. Once I don't feel it's malicious, then I'm fine with it. But don't go out there making these, life happens. And like I said, the Bible talks about good counsel. So make sure that you are not afraid to speak up. And if persons are asking you for advice, don't get to a point where you say, listen, I don't want anybody to be upset. Both of you are my friends, but this is what is right and this is what is wrong. Or perhaps even lead them to a scripture, but then don't leave them hanging, making the wrong decision after the next. Okay, so don't be afraid to share. And even in your meetings, with your staff. In fact, I don't know if I told you all about this experience, but I was in compliance and my computer had stopped working, and a lady from IT came to fix my computer. And I said, oh, okay, it's good that they have more females in IT. And she was, yes, they're talking about it and say, I've been with the company 3 years. And then she just started to cry. I told you all about that situation.
No, I never heard that one.
Would you say, Kendrick, go, Lord, you can't take another story? Would you say,
No. I say, I never heard that one. You just ask her, yeah, we have a nice female who's in IT, and then she burst out crying?
Yeah, she asked me if she could sit down, and then she burst out crying.
Oh, yeah, she needs
I in compliance. I don't know, this is the first time I ever saw this girl. And she cried. She sat at my desk and she cried, changing my computer. And I said, okay, if you want to talk about it, you know, I'm open to hearing what's wrong. And then she said, well, she lives with her parents, and her parents are priests or in the church, and she already had a child, and now she was pregnant again. And she didn't know how to tell her parents, and she knows she's going to get put out, and she just didn't know to do. And she sat there and she cried. Now it's like, okay, I don't know if to hug her, I don't know what to say or whatever. So I said, you know, there's always prayer, and I don't think you should make this decision by yourself. I said, perhaps let's call the Women Crisis Center, or, you know, let's Google some stuff. And we Google some stuff, and I Google the price and go in prayer for about a week, and then you have to find a way to tell your parents. But in the meantime, let's look for an apartment, you know. So we got the newspaper and we started to look, and then she called me a few times, and, you know, for almost a month we talked, and then she found an apartment, and then she told her parents, just like she said, they was going to put her out, they put her out, but at least, you know, she had planned. You know,
that's just a tough situation.
Yeah, but what do you do? What do you do, Kendra? Do I say, Miss, I don't know you?
No,
I
you
do
can't do that.
work.
You can't tell a woman that they miss you on your own. You had your partner, you can't run. You on your own.
Right.
So we did the right thing. It has to be a practical application of, because she probably was just at that particular point. If she just break down like that,
for at a stranger's desk, oh, she don't even know.
Yeah, she was feeling that.
Yeah. So please, you know, help the young people. You know, my son is saying, Mommy, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to cause a problem. You know, I say, hon, but you have to get involved. Mommy needs some advice. You can't just never want to be involved. And then he said, Mommy, I can't deal with these woman issues. I can't deal with, you know. I said, but then you could use me. And so when you get a wife, you know, you'd be like, I done been through this before with my mommy. So, you know, I know what to do. But so to me, so many persons are turning away from giving that good counsel that is needed. Okay, so just to put another story from Miss Bullet, that to create awareness. Okay, so when do you use written communication? Again, when you have to write a policy or procedure, of course, or a book or what have you, you can't, you know, expect persons to just remember every step until they would have practiced it for a year or so, and then they should be able to catch on. So that's when you should really use written communication, or when there's an issue. Now, again, life is twofold. There are always like two sides of the story. Okay, so I just said earlier, when we want to communicate orally, yes, for communicating orally, yes, you want to personalize it and show the person that you care, and so you don't want to run to type up everything. But if you are the supervisor and it's, you know, you need to keep a note, you could just type a note to yourself and keep it on the person's file. So you could say, okay, perhaps I need a reminder to help this person, or this is something that needs to be on their performance appraisal. Those are the types of notes you need to keep, or you just need to cover yourself. I never deleted the email. I kept all the emails, and then when I became in compliance and had to show up in court, I printed out some of these emails and I kept them in a safe place. So if anything went down, I had my proof, right? And so that's when you want to document stuff, depending on, you know, if you need an audit trail or a paper trail. Again, I teach money laundering and compliance, and we start from introduction, and then we move all the way up to ICA. And so at the beginning, which is only 4 weeks, I encourage everybody to make a library and keep a copy of, you know, any research they would have done, because they're going to need it all the way through. So that's the type of, you know, written communications you want to keep to cover yourself for proper audit trail, for proper paper trail. But when you have to deal with persons, you keep, and you want to document on this particular day, on March the 2nd, this happened with Kendrick. And I just want to put this on his file for a little reminder to be careful of this, or to check back on him to make sure he's okay, or to, you know, perhaps I do need to document it and put it in his performance appraisal overall. So it just depends. Okay, but don't be obsessive with keeping notes and writing down and documenting every little thing. Remember, we work with human beings. And so there's a human factor that should be in there, that should be carried out. You know, we're not perfect. We do follow the rules the majority of the times or most of the times. And you should be 80-20 rule, but 80% of the time, Kendrick is in class, he participates, what have you, give him the 8. You know, that's how you make a decision. Don't say that one time when Kendrick didn't respond to Miss Bullet. Let me write that down right now, Kendrick. I write it down. Right?
I need that 10. I need that 10. I need no 9. I need a 10.
Yeah, we find that people do that. And then electronic communication, again, people try to avoid you and they don't deal with situations. And so sometimes we do send these emails that makes no sense because nobody understands it. Or we send it in all caps, or we send it in red. Do not ever send an email. I'm sure you have a policy somewhere on proper email etiquette. Please don't send an email when you're angry. Don't even type when you're angry, because a lot of times I used to type when I was angry, and when I read that, I used to fall off my chair. Don't hit send, okay? So you'll be in a lot of problems. Always be diplomatic in all your responses, no matter what. You could be right and you could be wrong. Or you could be right and people could be about to fire you and you still be diplomatic. Okay, you say the right words, you calm down, you wait a day or two. I just need 48 hours, 2 days, and then I completely calm and I can speak eloquently or I can write eloquently. So just be careful of that, and technology. Don't, even when in your relationships, you know, when we argue, and I find that I'll text some very awful stuff and I say, you know, I really want to be nice. I tell myself, I really want to be nice, but this is the only language that he understands. So I have to say this, and then I say, no, put the phone down, walk away, calm down first, you know. So practice good email, Facebook, social media etiquette. And so, and like I say, you be just say in all my responses, I will be diplomatic and you should be okay. Okay. And then the book goes on to talk about verbal and non-verbal communication. And again, we said surveys say 7% are the words that you speak. 93% is when you roll your eyes, you throw your hands up, and your tone. Okay. So non-verbal communication that is not spoken, written, or transmitted on a computer. Okay. Body language, the gestures, facial configurations, other movements of the body that communicate emotions or temperaments, such as aggression, fear, shyness, arrogance, joy, or anger. And again, when you're angry, I promise you, you will give a better response if you walk away, if you count to 10. And sometimes, you know, I've been in meetings where I couldn't walk away. You know, I normally say, excuse me, may I use the bathroom, please? And I'll be right back with your response. And I stamp all the way to the bathroom. I lock the door and I throw myself up against the wall, because that's how sometimes workers make you feel, right? And then I come back and I get calmly answer them. Or if I can't be excused, I just give me a moment and I pretend like I'm looking through a document and I count to 10 and then I respond. And then 90% of the time it's a better response. Okay, and then in 2 days, I get things straight and I can give you the completely right diplomatic response that you need. Okay, so be very careful about your body language, and you have to learn how to control your gestures. Like a lot of people say, I can say the right words, but I can't control my face. You have to practice, you know, practice saying the right things and practice your gestures to ensure that you don't come across as rude. I have a friend that he was working on to one of those outer islands in Abaco, and he took off. He was in a confrontation with this. It was a new supervisor who was giving the wrong information. And he was telling the supervisor that that's the wrong information. And so the supervisor said, I don't care, do what I say. And he took off his shades and he just stared and kept looking the guy from head to toe. The guy went to HR and said, "You attacked me with your eyes." And he was fired.
No,
Okay?
non-for termination, I take it that's the excuse they use.
They said they didn't even discuss that the guy gave the wrong information and was telling them just do what he said. They said he attacked the guy with his eyes.
Okay.
Didn't touch him, didn't curse at him. He said nothing. He stood there in complete silence. And they said that he attacked the guy. And of course, this was a white guy versus a black guy. So he felt very afraid, he said, for his life.
Yeah, typically.
Okay, so you wonder, because, you know, the perception out there is that, you know, we are black and we are angry and, you know, what have you. So you have to be very careful. Just ensure, Kendrick, even though if you're silent, that you don't attack anybody with your eyes. Or you don't make any type of gestures.
Anyway.
Let's just be aware. Just all of this is for awareness. We ain't talking about who right or who wrong, right? Just for awareness. Okay? Okay. So let me try to get through this because I promise. Who did I promise?
I think it was me, eh?
Oh yeah, Tanisha, it's 7:40, 8 o'clock. I promise you will be. I just skipped right through this. We almost there.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I promise.
Okay,
I promise, and then I can send you all stuff. Okay, the grapevine. We all know about the grapevine, right? The means of communication by which most operative employees first hear about important changes introduced by the organizational leaders. The rumor mill, you know, where you could get a hot piece. If you in the right click, you get all the information, right? And the book says rumors have at least 4 purposes: to structure and reduce anxiety, to make sense of limited or fragmented information, to serve as a vehicle to organize group members and possibly outsiders into coalitions, and to signal a sender status. I am an insider. I'm more powerful than you. I have, you know, the inside scoop. Okay? The secrecy and competition that typically prevails in large organizations around such issues as appointment of new bosses, relocation of large organizations, realignment of work assignments, layoffs, create conditions that encourage and sustain rumors or the grapevine. Or there's some nosy people who just like to talk, like every single thing that happened, you know, they have to talk about it. A rumor will persist either until the wants and the expectations creating the uncertainty underlying the rumor are fulfilled. So until management come out and tell you exactly what happening and who getting laid off or what's going on, of course, the entire organization got, you know, have sip about it. Okay? And what this book says is what we need to do as supervisors is get used to the grapevine and use it to our benefit. So just how all the bad, you know, there's no way we can control the people from talking. Use that same grapevine to transmit certain messages to encourage the staff, I guess, to do better. You know, or a message worthy of passing on, not just gossip, or send some good news through the grapevine when it's bonus time, you know, and it's a pandemic and people are uncertain whether or not you know, they're gonna get bonuses or not. Put a little sip out there. Yes, bonuses will be paid, and that should make everybody happy. So a lot of times we get discouraged and we are upset because we you know can't control these things, and we are the supervisor and we saying, Miss Bullet, you being, you know, you use one of the head persons in the grapevine. Every time something happens, you are the knowledge person in this organization. So anytime somebody want to know something good or bad, they come into Miss Bullet. And so I'm mad at Miss Bullet because she too gossipy, right? But give Miss Bullet some positive things to gossip about. Put the mission statement that some people still do not know at this point, even though I said 100 times. And we are the supervisors, so if we don't know it, we only as strong as our weakest link. It stems from the head, right? If the head don't know the mission statement, what can we expect from the tail, right? So put that same mission statement and the values in the grapevine and let them spread that. You know, another good thing is a web blog or various corporate blogs that, you know, supervisors take on. And so I know we had one CEO that sent his assistant around to everybody, say, are you following me on LinkedIn? Are you following me on this? Or you know, and he got everybody was talking about him and say, look how he begging people to follow. Yeah, but he got the people to follow him and they got the very good information. And each time they wanted to know something was happening, he puts a little bit of information out there. So there are ways to stop just fighting the grapevine and thinking, you know, people will use it to disrespect you. However, throw some of the corporate goals and throw some positive information in there to get some messages out. Okay? Okay, so we will discuss another time about the grapevine because I did want people to chime in and tell us you know, with their thoughts. And then the book goes on to talk about barriers to effective communication. Even though we speak the same language, our language use or that language is far from uniform. In knowledge of how each of us modifies the language would minimize communication difficulties. If we tell the full story, and again, that's what happens in the grapevine. All we say is bonuses will be paid. I gotta add my piece. Bonuses can be paid, but it only could be $1,000. Then somebody else gotta Miss Bullet say it only could be 1,000, but I believe it's 50. And then the whole message then becomes distorted and it turns into no bonus will be paid because it's only $1,000 and nobody want that. You know, so the story will come out on the end in a completely different way. And so the common barriers are language, listening habits, lack of feedback, perception, role, requirements, information, medium, lack of honesty. Everybody got to add their little piece. Miss Bullet say this, but this what she mean. Like we become psychic, and now we know Miss Bullet mean what she say. Don't change my mind, and don't try and don't interpret it. I am clear as day. You could come back to me and say, Miss Bullet, this what I think you mean, and I've had this several times. Okay, yes, this is what I said, but this is what I meant. This is how I wanted you to interpret it. Sometimes we have to explain ourselves. A lot of times, again, good communication is seen as once we agree, we okay. But if somebody disagrees, we ain't being effective. No, we are being effective. However, we could agree to disagree. Okay, so be careful of that. And then in some companies like Scotia, my God, they have an acronym to an acronym to an acronym. They even have a page where you go and look up what all these acronyms mean because nobody knows. And then you sit in these meetings. We did an audit there before. You sit in these meetings and they say the JDI and the IFG and what are you like? What are these people talking about? Only the people who've been there 20 and 30 years know all these acronyms. So, to me, it causes a lot of problems. And when, you're communicating, because we don't know what the acronyms stand for. And then the Swiss people always, feel like somebody watching them and they just make efficiencies very difficult because they have they put a wall up or they try and disguise a lot of things that don't make no sense because they always feel like the government watching or somebody spying on them. So they create all sorts of inefficiencies that makes no sense or creates a whirlwind for people to learn and how to learn procedures and take off over where they left off. That's another thing. They don't want nobody to know what they know. And so they create, what should I say? A numbering system when you could just use a name or, to make it more difficult because they want to, disguise how they do business. It's crazy, but it creates, it protects you from the outside, but then also the people inside find it very difficult to pick up where you left off. And then a lot of times they leave, they will just let somebody go and give you like 1 week training. How if somebody, would have been the telesupervisor for 5 years, now the new person coming in can learn what they did in 1 week. So there's all sorts of things that happen. Okay. Most of us hear, but we don't listen. And again, we have those people who They don't even let you finish talking. They cut you off and they tell you what you need. Or we have those persons who give you those responses that are acceptable. They know it'll be inappropriate to say no. They know it'll be inappropriate to say, I don't know. And so they tell you what you want to hear and then they don't follow through. So, you know, hearing is merely picking up sound vibrations. Listening is making sense of what we hear. That is, listening requires paying attention. Listening requires paying attention, interpreting, and remembering what it says. Many of us are poor listeners. Okay, at this point, it suffices to say that if you do not have good listening skills, you are not going to get the full message as the sender meant to convey it. Okay, did you get my message? Effective communication means transparent and understanding of meaning. But how do you know when somebody has received your message and comprehended in the way that you meant it? The answer is feedback. When you request each member of your staff to submit a specific report, receipt of the report is feedback. Likewise, when the instructor tests you on the material in the book, you are getting feedback on your understanding of the material. When you fail to use feedback, you never know whether the message has been received or intended. Thus, the lack of feedback creates the potential for inaccuracies and distortions. Again, if I ask you if you have any questions or concerns and nobody responds, well, I don't know, you know, what you need to better digest this or to help you understand or going forward to make sure that everybody's successful. That's the goal of the class. Okay. So your attitude, your interests, your past experience, and your expectations determine how you organize and interpret your surroundings. Okay. Again, they ask you to look at this picture in 10.4. What do you see? Is it an old lady or is it a young lady? It just really depends on how you look at the picture or if you turn it upside down. Okay. In the communication process, the receiver selectively sees and hears messages based on his or her background and personal characteristics. The receiver also projects his or her interests and expectations into the communications when interpreting them. Because senders and receivers of communications each bring their own set of perpetual biases, the message they seek to transfer often are subjected to distortions. Okay? What roles do we have to do with what do roles have to do with communication? Okay, so marketing people say that they want to increase sales. So too often do the people in the credit department, except the marketing people want to sell everything to anybody, while those in the credit department want to sell to those who are credit worthy. Okay, so even though both of them may have the same goal, you know, the credit department has a little bit more requirements because they know the outcome if they just give away the products or they call in customers and say, come be giving out a credit card. We know that some persons who are not credit worthy may come in and receive that credit card. So different rules are in the organizations, and or normally there's no one person that makes a decision. There's a committee or a board, and everybody chimes in where the marketing people says, hey, we need to get sales up. I need you all to send at least 25 cards. And then the credit department will come in and say, well, we have to look at the economy and look at the market and see what's happening. It's a pandemic. We have to be extra stringent because a lot of people are not working, or people are working part-time. Okay, so the various rules in the department will determine what decisions are made, and then you will then understand too why each role makes a different decision, because perhaps there is a lot of credit card payments that are in arrears, and of course the people in marketing won't know that, and so after credit will chime in, then the delinquency department will come say, well, of course there are a lot of people that are in arrears, so we have to be careful with that. Okay, then we go on to talk about how does honesty affect your communication. Okay, and it says, suppose a colleague asks you your thoughts and ideas, your thought of the ideas he suggested in a recent project meeting in which you both participated. You thought his suggestions were weak, but you didn't tell him that. Rather, you complimented his ideas and said how much they contributed to his final results. A good deal of what passes as poor communication is nothing other than individuals purposely avoiding honesty and openness. To avoid confrontations and hurting other feelings, we frequently engage in practices such as conveying ambiguous messages, saying what we think others want to hear, or cutting off communication altogether. Some people run from confrontations. They want everyone like them. They want everybody to like them. As such, they avoid communicating any messages they think might be displeasing to the receiver. What they end up doing is increasing tension and further hindering effective communication and productivity. And the project will fall apart, but you actually let that person fail. So you essentially doing more harm and good. So again, like I said, the Bible talks about good counsel at least 5 different places in the Bible. Please read your Bible so you know to do what is right. So again, back to my same son, I'm trying to teach him, you have to be honest. You can't just want everybody to like you, or, we live in this world now where when you tell the truth, you're outcasted. And if you lie, it seems to be the end thing. Okay? The Bible still stands. We still should do what is right, ethically, even though we live in this very unethical world. Okay? So we can make the difference. Okay, so how can you improve your communication effectiveness? Think first. Don't just run on and on and on. Constrain emotions. I am disappointed, and so therefore my message becomes harsh or not rational. Learn to listen. Again, I'm asking for feedback, but every time Kendrick talk, I finish in his sentence, or I say, no, Kendrick, that ain't what you mean. Right, Kendrick? I say that ain't what you mean. Learn to listen and accept what people says, and they don't always have to agree with you. Different people want different things. Okay? Tailor the language to the receiver. I learned this years ago in church when we was on listening to Bishop Lawrence Roll, and when Bishop Lawrence Roll came to our church, a lot of times we didn't, because we are Baptists as well, we didn't understand them. We didn't understand what he was singing. His songs was nice and he was very entertaining, and a lot of people laugh at him. But to a certain group of people, they understand his language. If they would sit in another church, they may not understand, but they understand him and they follow him, and so he is doing a good work to a select group of people. So I follow his music and I try to not use him as a joke because he's doing a good work in the community. But a lot of people just follow him and see him as a joke, but he has a large following in his church who are at the level that he is at and can understand exactly, what he is preaching and what he's teaching. So you want to make sure that, just like I wouldn't come in here and start speaking Mandarin because nobody would understand. You want to, you want to speak at a level, sometimes in layman's terms, to ensure that everybody understands what you're saying. A lot of people like to impress people with their words, and 90% of the time you're like, what? And a lot of people ain't even gonna take the time to go and research the word and see what it means. So, for the most part, tailor your message to, the group or to the receiver. Okay, match words with actions. Again, actions speak louder than words. Don't just give me a honest answer to shut me up, and then tomorrow I have to complain. Don't make me have to talk louder because you don't understand when I talk soft. And as I always say, as this might go to everybody, but I say, as poor Black people, all we have is our name. Let your name be honorable. Always, you can't do it right away, but call and say, I can't do it right away. Answer your emails, answer your phones. Don't get into the practice where you say, I'm gonna, leave me a message, I'll call you back in 2 hours, and 2 hours never comes. All of that is like even bad customer service, and you don't want to train your staff that way. So live up to your commitments and your responsibilities. And then I see some people have 200 emails unchecked. How possible? Those people are waiting on answers. Okay, so make sure, you're saying you want to be the leader in banking and blow away the customer. You can't do that by having 200 unchecked emails and no phone ever answered and no calls ever returned. Okay, and then use feedback. you know, give some feedback. Miss Bullet, you could do this better, or this may help, or what have you. And so some people came up with suggestions, and I thank you. And then you never know. You know, I may scale it down to the best of my ability, and or I may say, okay, let's give more practice on the test. There are a lot of things, you know, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that everybody is successful. So I'm open to, you know, we can follow the rules, but to ensuring everybody is successful. Okay, and then participate in assertiveness training. Many people have no trouble asserting themselves, being open and honest comes naturally to them. And then sometimes assertiveness gets confused with aggressiveness. And so it's like borderline. So you want to be, you know, careful of that. So you do not, you know, cross the line from being assertive to being aggressive. And then again, the world has to catch up. You have to understand that the world does not like give the good counsel, and a lot of people can't deal with honesty. So you have to be as compassionate as possibly in your responses to make sure that even though you're telling the truth, like they say, the truth hurts. So try to be as compassionate as possible so the person is receptive to what you say, you know, because, you know, it's very difficult to accept criticism. So, you know, be careful with that. Okay. So what is the difference between positive feedback and feedback for improvement? Positive feedback fits what most people wish to hear and already believe about themselves. Does this mean then that you should avoid giving feedback for improvement? No. What it means is that you need to be aware of potential resistance and learn to use feedback for improvement in situations in which it is most likely to be accepted. That is, feedback for improvement should be used when it's supported by hard data, numbers, specifics, examples, and the like. Tough love, right? Tough love. Okay. And how do you give feedback? And again, in the final exam, these two are most popular for essay questions. How can you improve your communication effectiveness? And how do you give feedback? Focus on specific behaviors. Keep feedback impersonal. I don't really like Miss Bullet, but anyway, I got to tell her what I have to say, you know. And then don't only be to oppose, and you know, we're here because we expect to be the future leaders in our organizations and in our companies, in our country story. And so just because we don't like people, we should not, you know, tear them down and oppose. And that's what I feel like the opposition leader does. Not the leader, but the whole opposition party, whether it's the FNM or the PFP, their job seems to always only be to oppose. No, we need people to come together and make decisions, you know, bipartisan on the country side that, you know, be beneficial for most persons. So please don't let your job be, because you're on the other side, only to oppose. Okay?
They're the official opposition, though.
Yeah, but that means their job is to oppose. That's what opposition means?
Constantly. They are Her Majesty's opposition, to be exact.
Okay, but let it not only be tough. I don't know how to change it. We need to call them something else then. When I become the Prime Minister, I'm going to change that name.
Listen, okay, if you run next year, you may actually win that seat.
Okay, how about that? Okay, make feedback well timed. Ensure understanding. This is why I'm constantly, I let Miss Bullet just go on and teach and stop asking us for our comments. No, I want to ensure that you understand. I want to ensure that you receive the message that I conveyed and be comprehend. You know, I want y'all to be receptive to what I say. And like I say, go back to your organizations and apply some of these things. So people could say that, you know, Blakely as a supervisor, she attended that class and we see the difference. I mean, not saying that anything needs to change, and I'm sure she's very good at what she does, but we see the difference. We see her, you know, speaking up, not only opposing, complimenting us, putting a rewards situation in place, making sure that persons are comfortable and flexible and the staff is productive, okay? And then direct feedback for improvement. We see us speaking out, giving us some tough love, guiding us, not just letting us throw ourselves under the bus or say, Miss Bullet, don't listen, so I am not gonna coach her. And that's what happens a lot of times. Like I say, when we have a group of people, we have high, medium, and low performers, and we kind of give up even as being parents, if this child is unruly and not doing what they're supposed to do, we give up. Okay, I tired of talking to this boy. Let him just do what he feel like doing. No, you cannot give up your right as a supervisor because that employee ain't doing what they're supposed to do, and you cannot give up your right as a parent because that child ain't listening. Okay, you have to speak life over them, train them, find a solution, make it better. You know, a lot of Bahamian mothers, you know, when they don't get along with their children or their children acting up, they say, you either end up in the jail or the grave. And then when it happens, they come on the TV and they give an interview to our news and say, I tell him that he don't be disrespectful. No, you tell that person that for years, you program into them, you know. So communicate differently and say, I thank God for the day when you change, when you listen, when you do what is right. Even in our relationships, you know, it's the power in the tongue. I say, it's the worst relationship ever. I hate you. I can't, you know, I don't want to be in this relationship no more. No, thank God for the day when you listen, when you give the right responses, when the relationship is better, when we do what is right. Okay? Because whatever you program is what you become, or whatever you practice is what you become. And again, that is, I learned that from little, I guess, WhatsApp or thing on Facebook. If you practice to drive a car, when you're 15, 16, you want to drive. By the time you're 18, 19, you could get a license because you would have practiced. So let's practice proper and effective communication. Let's practice good counsel, and then we'll get good at it. Then we'll be giving good advice. And let's practice to speak life. Okay, and be effective. Okay, Tanisha, 6 minutes. 6 minutes. I can send you. I done.
We looking good, eh?
Yeah, I done. Comments or concerns, or you just want your questions, you'll go practice and go from there. Comments or concerns? We good? Feedback? Any feedback? Tanisha was quiet.
Questions.
I was listening, man.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kendra.
Yeah, Cobra. You had nothing to say on that section there. That's okay.
No, Cobra gotta go eat. She's supposed to eat from 7:30. She wasn't talking to make this no longer.
Well,
next week she can talk.
No.
Right, Cobra? Tell him. Next week for her. This guy, you and Yuri did an excellent job. So very good, Kendra. Okay, go ahead with your question. Kendrick still there?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. The questions, these are practice questions that we do now, or just something?
Yeah, just practice. Okay, again, it's a practice for the quiz because I want you all to get a good grade on the quiz. And I tell you, when I give the quiz, it's going to be 25 questions and you're going to have 20 minutes to submit it. And if you don't submit it within 20 minutes, then you don't get a grade. So that's why I'm going to give you practice questions on chapter 10, practice questions on chapter 6, and practice questions on chapter 5. And then you'll have your quiz on the 16th. Or maybe just 10 and 5, because we won't cover 6 yet.
Okay.
When are we to turn these questions in?
You don't have to turn them in. It's just practice.
Oh, just practice. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. You'll get the grade for your quiz.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I understand you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any other comments or concerns?
Good question. When did you say you're sending the quiz again?
The quiz isn't, if we look at the agenda, let me tell you when the quiz is. The quiz isn't until March 16th.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you these practice for number 10, and then I'll give you some practice for number 5, and then we'll get to the quiz. So the quiz will be on chapters 10 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if I could just hit send. Do I have it ready? Okay, send. Okay, can you check and let me know if anybody didn't get it?
You say you would have sent something? I didn't get anything.
Yeah. I sent it like 2 seconds ago.
Okay.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Okay,
I got it. I got it.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
I'm still waiting.
Refresh your page. Might have to refresh your page.
Okay. I just did it. I still didn't get it.
Okay, so again, we want to organize our times. If you need a little break now, take a little break and then get back to it, and so you don't fall behind. Because just like I say, try to get some in uninterrupted time, and so you could focus and you could digest some of this.
I haven't received it.
Who's that? Margaret?
Margaret, yes, ma'am.
I didn't receive it either.
Who's that?
Roseanne.
Roseanne, is Ann Roberts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ms. Bullet, we don't have to turn this in. This is just practice.
Okay. Yeah, just practice so you are prepared, because I don't want you, this is a way to make you study for your quiz, because like I said, it's going to be 20 minutes, and if you don't email it back within 20 minutes, you do not get a grade.
Okay.
Okay, is Stephanie Major at Hotmail? Stephanie? Sorry, why I saying Stephanie? Margaret?
It's Sanders. Hold on, Miss Bullet. I see what happened. This gets in 809. I got it. But why this gone way down here though?
Okay, so it's just Ann, you don't have it, right?
I got it.
You got it?
It probably took a minute to come, but I get it, yeah.
Okay, good. So everybody has it. Because again, what I am seeing happening now is your midterm is only 20% of your grade. I want to ensure that you have enough points within the class to ensure that you're successful and have the 65% overall. Okay, so the way it looks now, that some of you will need these extra points. So please do good on your quizzes. And then I want to avoid any of you having to retake the final, but it's $150 if you have to retake the final. Yeah, so we want to avoid all of that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you do your classwork, you sit comfortably in the final exam with at least 30%. And none of you have come and said you've went to Toastmasters, Rotary, or Kiwanis.
No,
and so none of you right now have your 5%. So
well, hold on. So what you want us to do? Do we need to send an email to you about the Toastmasters?
When we start the class, you tell us, you have a discussion you tell us what the discussion was about and whether or not you found it beneficial.
Okay, I'm going to submit next week because I've been.
Okay. Okay.
Not really been, but you know what I mean? I log in it, yeah.
Yeah.
But like we're saying, once we visit one of those meetings, we just have to discuss it in class. We don't have to submit anything to you.
No, you just have to discuss it in class and tell us what the topic was, give us a little overview and say whether or not it was beneficial. And if you introduce yourself, because it's supposed to be for you to network.
Okay.
Well, I need somebody, whoever doing it, send me a link. And it has to be something that is done after 5 or 6.
This one is, this is a Toastmasters one I've been through. This was very boring, I must say. I try to write down as much points as I possibly could.
Okay, nobody attended the one on for Valentine's with the club.
Exactly, I couldn't make that one, but they said that'd be the best one of the year.
Right.
This one was just like a bunch of notes and updates and.
Yeah. Okay, but please get your 5% because, like I say, that's the difference between having to reset the final. That's the difference between the 60 and the 65 to pass. And that's the difference between 85 and 90 to get an A for those of you who are scholars. Okay, so take advantage of all the benefits that are available to you. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so next week we'll talk about chapter 5. And please read through. I am going to, if I don't assign it, everybody's going to do the same topic, right? So let me go down this list so everybody doesn't do the same topic. Denise, can you tell us, you do some research and read on the human resource management process?
I'm sorry, the human resource management process. Chapter 10?
Yeah, no, chapter 5 is next week.
Okay. Open it up.
Yeah, it talks about staffing and recruiting.
Okay.
Okay. Kendrick, we want you to talk about downsizing.
Why you gonna give me that one? People get.
Yeah, because right now it's a pandemic, right?
Okay, downsizing.
Coldbrook, we want you to talk about recruitment.
Okay.
So that's reducing.
Blakely, we want you to talk about training. Fabian.
Okay.
Fabian, we want you to talk about sexual harassment.
Okay.
Margaret, we want you to talk about the interview process.
Okay, got you. Interview process.
Okay. And who else? Roseanne and Yuri. Let's see. No, we already do that. Okay, yeah. So workforce diversity in there. We want you to talk about compensation and benefits. Yuri, and performance appraisals. Roseanne.
Okay.
You want me to compensation, what? Compensation benefit?
Compensation and benefits, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so everybody has a topic. And then next week we will start with those who would have attended their civic organization. And then we'll go into everybody giving an overview of their topic. And then I'll then have an exercise after everybody goes through that for y'all to complete. Okay?
Okay, Ms. Bullet, anybody just hit me up a link, please, to one of the meetings. I really can use the 5%.
Okay, I think I would have sent out some emails, but if I get anything else, I'll let y'all know.
All right, anybody just hit me up, please.
Okay, we will.
All right.
Okay, great. Tanishka, I get in for 8 o'clock next week for sure.
Okay, good.
All right, great. All right, so y'all have a pleasant evening. Have a productive week. And I really hope that y'all can get some uninterrupted time to unwind and feel good so we can digest this and be successful in the end. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so good evening, and I'll see y'all again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, all.
if we had to look at who's going